Good morning, and I hope today finds you all well. On Wednesday morning, my doorbell rang, and a letter was also posted through the letterbox. I opened the front door, and my friends Diana and Eleanor were there, having just been on a very long social distancing walk. It was lovely having a long chat, stood on the doorstep, and afterwards reading the card inside the envelope, which made me think about letter writing. During this time of isolation, have you noticed just how little post you get through your letterbox? A real benefit for me is hardly any junk mail, which personally, once I've removed my name and address from, is reposted into the recycling bin. Keep in touch, we say, usually when we're moving house, changing jobs, or for the young people leaving school. Since the introduction of the social distancing, the notion of touch has sadly become associated with infection and protection of ourselves. Receiving a handwritten letter is always something I have taken great pleasure in. Thus, you can imagine my disappointment when I heard somebody ask where they could find some nice writing paper and matching envelopes in the shop the other day, and the lady replied, "They no longer stopped good writing paper. No one writes these days," she said. How very sad. In days gone by, letters were the only means of communication. Now we have the blessing of not only talking on our phones and texting, we have the internet, which allows us to email and message to anywhere in the world in a matter of seconds. Don't get me wrong, I do value having the internet, and when it works, it's a true blessing. How lovely it is to type an email and know it will be read just a little while later and perhaps even replied to on the same day. For the majority of us nowadays, email is an integral part of our lives in both professional and personal manner. I personally use it for my parish work and for keeping in touch with friends and family members. My email box has also become the place for online receipts, newsletters and much, much more. When you think about it, there's not much email can't do these days. However, it saddens my heart to see how people are out of touch with many of the beautiful, simple practices of writing and receiving a handwritten letter. Writing letters is an art, and presentation is just as important as the contents of the letter. My dear friend Barbara always includes a handwritten letter in my birthday and Christmas card. She makes a shopping trip to Sainsbury's sound like an adventure. Like me, I realise that many of us don't have too much time for writing long letters by hand, but might I encourage you to set aside a little time every so often and put down a bit of love on paper or in a notelet and seal it in an envelope to bless somebody's day. A few weeks ago, we received 2 letters from Olivia and Evelyn, our granddaughters in Australia. It was delightful to discover the handwritten letter in the post, and that encouraged me to handwrite and post a card to all the members of Catherington and Clanfield Mothers Union. It took me quite a while, and I admit to very painful fingers afterwards from gripping the pen, but it was well worth the effort. There are many reasons why it's nice to send a handwritten letter or card. Imagine if your friend has suffered a bereavement. Now imagine sending them a quick email or a text instead of a handwritten card or note to pass on your condolences. It just doesn't feel right, does it? When someone dies, it can be hard to process everything that's going on. So sending your sympathy in a letter so that they can go back and read it anytime, and maybe include some of your own memories of their loved one to make it an extra special experience. Thank you notes are something parents don't seem to teach their children these days. They're a great way to reach out and touch people. Let them know that you've noticed and appreciated their efforts with a special note saying thanks. Encouraging words can be easily said and just as easily forgotten. Make sure the recipient of yours can't forget them by documenting them in a letter. Who knows, maybe they'll find it years from now and tackle something they wouldn't have ever had the courage to do before. Most of the post we get through our doors is either junk mail, such as all the leaflets from the supermarkets you never use, or bills or those dreaded brown envelopes which never, ever seem to contain anything good. How lovely it is in comparison when an envelope with a handwritten name and address falls onto the doormat. This has always felt special, but nowadays it seems to feel even more so, with us leading such socially isolated lives. The thought of someone stopping for half an hour to pen a letter to you is truly magical. Thinking of emails, it might be your mum's first ever email to you, or a gooey one from your other half, but the chances are, when you want to find it, you can't. It's lost in that sea of old emails. I, for one, can never find an email when I search for it. Of course, that could just be me and my email skills. But all my old love letters from my husband, also letters from my family members, now no longer alive, are stored all together in a box. There is something special in being able to store handwritten notes in this way. Again, imagine the youth of today, forever on their phones texting, never having given or received a handwritten love letter, just texts in later life. I feel they may have a few regrets. I love you in emoji speak just doesn't sound very romantic, does it? Not only does a handwritten letter take longer to write and therefore suggests more care from the writer, it also more personal on so many levels. Consider this. Ink from your pen touches the stationery. Your fingers touch the paper and seals the envelope. Something tangible from your world travels through machines and hands at the post office and deposits itself in another letterbox. Your letter is then carried inside as an invited guest. The paper that was sitting on your desk now sits on another's. The recipient handles that paper that you handled. Slow mail, or snail mail as it's called, might not sound like a selling point to you, but in this fast pace of era of emails, text messages and WhatsApp, I long for anything that exists as a slower, more relaxing pace. Mindfulness has become quite a big concept lately. The act of focusing one's attention on the present, on the here and now, and taking time to sit down, relax, read or write a letter, for me, fits into that mindset quite nicely. In the Bible, we have letters written by St. Paul to the Romans, the Corinthians, the Galatians, the Ephesians, the Philippians, the Colossians, and the Thessalonians. Some he wrote twice, a bit like a movie sequel. Paul is also the author of what is known as the pastoral letters, including Timothy and Titus, concerning the pastoral care of churches. Letter writing preserves memories, and letters written by St. Paul records for us in the Bible about events in biblical times that still teach and speak to us now as much as it ever did, and it will also continue to do so into the future. Do you remember when time capsules were popular? They, like the Bible, preserve aspects of an era that are often long forgotten. Like St. Paul, writing letters is a beautiful way to minister to others, to share the love of Christ, and to bring such joy. Thank you for listening today, and I want to finish with the words of St. Paul at the start of many of his letters, and that is also the priest's opening set greetings at the beginning of a communion worship in Eucharist service. Grace, mercy and peace from God and Father Jesus Christ, our Lord, be with you. Amen.